All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, reminder, tomorrow Mike Babcock, TMZ Sports, will be joining us along with Johnny Katz from the Review-Journal. Our last caller, I promised him I would answer his very, very good question, and it was regards to Representative Omar, who has made some horrible remarks about Israel and Jewish people, basically anti-Semitic remarks. And his question was, I'm kind of paraphrasing where she was elected, a lot of Muslims, and his question, I believe, was in regards to do I think that a lot of these Muslims think the way she thinks? Probably not. At least I hope not. I believe it was Jeff who called in. I really seriously hope not. That's really scary. I think the majority of the people that are Muslim voted for her probably because she's Muslim, not because she's an anti-Semite, not because she hates Israel and because she's anti-Semitic. Perhaps there is a very small percentage of people that voted for that reason, and I hate to admit that, but there probably is. But yeah, I believe if she was running in another area that wasn't heavily populated by Muslims, no way she would have been elected. No way. So I hope I answered your question, and it was a good question, and thank you for calling in. All right, joining us in studio, besides my co-host, Mr. J.D. Sharp, across the table from me, Jamison Welsh from Drive Time Sports. Jamison, I always appreciate when you come in. You are, I have to say this, you are definitely, at least in Vegas, the most knowledgeable basketball person that I have ever met. And I mean that sincerely. No, I mean that. You know everything when it comes to basketball, whether it's college hoops, NBA, high school. You are just connected. And I can ask you pretty much any question. I can ask you about the 11th or 12th guy on any NBA roster, and you'll tell me, well, he's this, he's that. I mean, it's incredible. So your knowledge of basketball, in my opinion, is unprecedented. Well, I will have to introduce you as saying such, because that's how I feel.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate the kind words. I just, I take pride in my NBA knowledge, basketball knowledge. I mean, when you know a lot of people, you watch a lot of games, and especially in this city where there's so much basketball history in the city, from high school all the way up to pros. I mean, and the pro game is not just the exhibition game that's out here every October. It's summer league. It's the people who work out here, the guys who rehab here. It's just it's a fun game. And as long as I tell people all the time, as long as you're the same person people know the first time that you are the next time, everything's cool. You meet so many cool people in this business that as long as you're cool with them and you're honest, you're not about any games, you're going to build so many additional relationships just by being yourself.
No doubt. So we're going to definitely touch on the NBA. We're going to talk a little UNLV hoops, but I just want to bring up, we don't talk a lot about the Vegas Golden Knights on this show, but I want to bring this up because it's a sports topic that I think is very interesting. So yesterday the Knights lost, I believe, to Phoenix, or was it Arizona? Was it Phoenix? Okay. Yeah. And, bad loss. I think they've lost several games in a row. Gallant was really pissed off, rightfully so. Mm-hmm. So at the press conference, he was asked, some of the guys said, you were in the locker room a little later, sending a message, and he said to one of the members of the media here locally, that's none of your business.
Yes, it's not.
Yeah, and I agree. But there are some members of the media in this town that think it is their business, and some of those people have actually spoken to more players trying to get the dish on what's going on. A lot of those players won't do it. Right. Look, it's pretty obvious. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this out. The Knights didn't play well last night. They've been not playing up to their standards the last few weeks. And Gallant got pissed. He's a fiery guy. That's why he was a good player. That's why he's a great coach. Why we could just assume what happened in that locker room.
It's team only meeting.
Yeah,
it happens all the time. Basketball happens all the time. Now the worst part about basketball is this. Like our games out here start at 7. In most cities, NBA starts at 7:30. So the game goes 2.5 hours, sometimes maybe 3. If you have a deadline to meet and a team is taking 30, 40 minutes to come out, that could be tough meeting your deadline.
That's a different story. Yeah. But I do think there are people in this town that cover the Knights that think they deserve to know what happened in the locker room. No, they don't. I agree with Gallant. And it is so easy to figure out. The guy just went off a little bit, and he said they weren't playing with passion. That's what one of the players, I think Nate Schmidt said that. Mm-hmm. I don't blame him for going off.
And it happens. I mean, here's the thing. Like, no one's perfect. Every team has issues, no matter, hell, the Warriors are the best team in the league, and they've had issues. So, every team has issues in every sport. That's just how it goes. The Patriots had issues before they won it. So, every team goes through it. But I tell people all the time, I've told you when the first time I met you, a lot of people in media think they are bigger and better than the sport or the player or the team they cover. And that's the biggest issue in media right now. There's so many different personalities that are grown from the media that people think they're more important than the sport or the event they cover.
Especially with the Golden Knights, there are a few people that grew beards into the playoffs as if they were a member of the team. I won't mention who they are, but what a bunch of losers. Come on, that's just stupid, man.
I don't mind the beard growing. My thing is this, like, you have to still be the same person you were from game 1 to the Stanley Cup. You shouldn't be changing because you're covering the team. Like, that shouldn't change who you are.
I agree. I think there are some writers who think they actually play on the team. And let's be honest, many of the people that are covering the Vegas Golden Knights in this town have never covered the NHL in their life, and all of a sudden they are experts.
Or pro sports.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke, man.
But my guy Willie's not like that, though.
Willie Ramirez is cool. No, I'm not talking about Willie, but you probably know who I'm talking about. There are a few people in the media.
Willie
that I'm not
is a seasoned veteran.
Yes.
Yeah,
no, Willie does a good job for the AP. He's been on the show
and the players
before.
like him too.
And Willie works out 3 days a week, so you say 3 times a day. So if you say something reckless about him, he'll pop up here. So you gotta be careful.
And probably the most well dressed person in the media as well. And Willie never struck me as a guy that has an
could probably
ego.
climb this brick wall with his bare hands.
He's a big dude. All right, so we all agree on that. The media doesn't deserve to know what happened in the locker room, and I think the fact that some of these media members are going up to players in practice today and asking them, hey, what did he say in the locker room, blah, 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 blah. It's like, just shut up already. Stop asking those dumb questions. You know what he said. He lashed out at his players for not showing passion. They had another bad performance, and you know what? They play the Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow night. The Maple Leafs are one of the best teams in the league, probably one of the best teams that Vegas will see here at the T-Mobile Arena. I don't say this, I love the Vegas Golden Knights tomorrow. When you have a coach that lashes out like that, and then their next game, they usually perform well. I love the Golden Knights tomorrow, and it's almost a pick 'em. I think the Knights win tomorrow. But anyway, moving on. So last night, of course, there was like over 18,000 people at T-Mobile Arena, and the joke in the Thomas and Mack was, well, there were probably at least 800 people.
Maybe.
JD, have you seen the pictures of how many people were in the stands in the Thomas and Mack
No,
yesterday?
but when we talked on Monday, I thought there would be about 2,300. And C. Wynn said 3,200.
Not even close. I'm telling you, and Jameson, you've seen the pictures too.
I saw the game on TV, and I was like, wow. It looked all right. So for those who you ref AAU, so you see it all the time. You've been in gyms where it's been packed, and you've been in the auxiliary gym where it's just parents and friends.
Right.
That looked like parents and friends last night. That looked really. I mean, you know it's bad when behind the bench of Air Force the chairs were folded up. They weren't even folded down; they were folded up. That's why I was like, damn. There's really no one. Yeah, if you watch some highlights of yesterday's game, the chairs are folded up like no one had even attempted to sit down in them. That's how bad it was. The row right.
And then
you guys know where. I didn't tell you guys where.
Did Moore leave at halftime when they were down?
That I don't know. I can't answer. I wasn't at the game, so I'm not sure. All I know is we had a few friends that sent us some pictures while I was on the air yesterday, and they're like, wow, this is the state of UNLV athletics, UNLV basketball.
I mean, bottom line, that's just unacceptable. Jameson, here's my question. How many programs in the last 50 years have won national titles in men's basketball?
That's a hell of a question. I don't know off top. I don't know.
Because UNLV is one of those programs.
Yeah, but it's a different situation because they're not a big school like that, and they're a commuter school. Like, that's the one thing. Even though UNLV is out here on the West Coast, it's a big traditional power in a sense, or traditional name, it's still a commuter school at the end of the day. Yeah. You don't have a lot of people from out of state that go here that stay on campus or live close. Most people who go to UNLV, they don't stay on campus. So you don't have that same feel as like a Michigan State or a Duke or North Carolina where everybody's close. It's not Vegas is not a college town. It's commuter school. So it's not the same thing. However, we all talk about this all the time. This is a really good job. There's some perks to it. There's some downfall to it, too, that we're not going to talk about tonight. But there's way more perks than not. And whoever gets the job next, if they handle it right, they can get this thing back rolling.
So in regards to the actual game last night, and they're playing Air Force. I believe Air Force is the 254th best team in the country. Okay, not a good basketball team, although I would say their coach has done a good job getting those kids to play hard, but not a good basketball team. UNLV.
I do recall you having a major wager on Air Force on the road against San Jose State, and they came back and won that game for you.
They did. I've won a little bit of money on Air Force because those kids play hard. You know, they're not the most skilled team, but you know they're going to come out and they're going to play hard.
Right.
So they're up 1 point yesterday with a minute to go.
Right.
And Clyburn misses a three, and I'm telling you right now, if Air Force grabs that rebound, which they don't, if Air Force grabs that rebound, we're talking about a loss, most likely. Most likely. So UNLV gets the rebound just because Clyburn just completely missed, and it was a long rebound, and then they get fouled, and they make 6 free throws in the last minute. Very fortunate to come out of that game with a win against a very bad team. So John Sandler, and again, I'm not trying to trash the guy. I don't try to trash anybody. I just disagree with people, especially that are in the media. And John Sandler is the guy who does play-by-play for UNLV. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything negative about UNLV in the time he's been here. I really don't. At least I don't think so. This is what he tweets after UNLV beats the number 254th team in the country. He tweets, "Big W for the Runnin' Rebels. Air Force never quits. Rebels matched them. Made key plays at critical times." So this was my response to that, because I'm just so tired of people drinking the Kool-Aid here. So I'm going to tell you guys what my response was, and you guys tell me what you think. I said, I'm all for being positive, John, but our definition of a big win is very different. This is just my take, but squeaking out a win at home against a team that is not even top 200 in the country while wearing a jersey that says UNLV should never be considered a big win. Now, of course, he doesn't respond to it, but do you guys agree or disagree? What do you think about John Sandler's tweet? JD, I'll start with you, and then we'll ask Jameson. What do you think about that?
Well, it's obviously not a big win. It's number 254 in the country, and he should never even think about tweeting that because Marvin Menzies is 3-28 against top 100 teams in the country.
Right. Yeah.
That and also what qualifies
you have to consider that you can't keep making these very, very, very small victories much larger than they actually are. In the grand scheme of things, this is, really, he's probably going to win 14 or 15 or 16 games this year, and maybe one will be against a team that was top 150 in the country.
Yeah.
And that means nothing. That doesn't mean he's a good coach. Doesn't mean the team is good. Doesn't mean the win is big. It just means it's well below average.
What do you say, Jameson?
Well, look here. Even if San Diego State's having a down year, beating them at home is a big win. They've been, over the last decade, they've been pretty strong. They're usually tough to play against, even if they're having even if they're having a suspect year. That's a big win. Nevada, of course, would be a big win. Even Fresno State, the way they've been playing this year, solid win. But after that, in the conference, even Utah State would be considered a good win. But after that, I don't want to hear about a good win. First of all, Air Force was bad. I saw the game. I watched most of it.
They're not very good.
They turn the ball over a lot. They play hard, but they turn the ball over a lot. They don't have a whole lot of athleticism. So they're not going to beat their guy off the dribble. They're not going to out-jump anyone. They can shoot pretty well, but that's pretty much about it. They're not going to do a whole lot. These athletes were on a totally different level than theirs.
Agree.
So the user term big win,
it's
nonsense. The only reason why it was a big win because if you lose that one, if you're Marvin Menzies, that seat gets hotter and hotter.
Well, it's already pretty hot.
But it gets scorching when you lose Air Force at home, though.
I agree, and he's very fortunate to come away with a win. I'll open up the phone lines on this. Do you think when UNLV beats a team that's not even 200 in the country, you can call that a big win? I don't care what the circumstances are. And what do you think about how many fans do you think were in attendance yesterday? I'm going to say it looked like around 1,000. What do you guys think about that? The number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. I heard that this was the worst attended game, the worst attended home game since Lon Kruger started here. That's how bad it was. Mm-hmm. That's what I heard. So that's the state of UNLV athletics right now, the UNLV basketball program. Not good. Again, that number to call, 257-5396. Let's start off with Nelson. Nelson, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Good, guys. Hey, I called you guys down from Reno a couple of weeks ago. I had my blue ribbon in my car with me.
I remember, yep.
Okay. Just a couple quick comments, and then if I can, I'll say something on UNLV.
Yep.
If you remember, I didn't say anything too complimentary about Mr. Crean, the current basketball coach at Georgia.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys caught how he threw his kids under the cement truck yesterday. But for anybody that wants to think whatever they want about Tom Crean, listen to his comments, what he said about his team.
Jameson, what do you think about that?
Oh, they were pretty bad. And the crazy part, he got rewarded by getting the best player in his class. That's the crazy part. The next day, he gets Anthony Edwards, who is literally the best shooting guard in the country. So, yeah, it was very odd. And there was a couple of parents that spoke out, too, against it. But, you never talk about your kids that way. Never. I don't care what situation you get the program under. You never talk about your team like
Nelson,
that.
Let me just bring up something else real quick. After Marvin Menzies got blown out by Fresno State the other day, I don't know if you were aware of this. This is what he said. He said, quote, "We have a great system in place. The kids just need to embrace it." What the hell does that mean? Take some responsibility. Go ahead, Nelson.
You know what? I've been betting college basketball for about 25 or 26 years now, and I will tell you one thing, probably about 7 or 8 times a year, I have to take a night off, and I have to take a couple extra showers. Because when you delve into this and you read the city newspapers, the school newspapers, and dig into the different websites, you get covered with a pretty bad case of fish oil.
I agree. I talk about this on the show all the time. The people in this town, some of them, not all of them, that write about the UNLV athletics are drinking the UNLV Kool-Aid, and they just don't want to be honest.
They're not even drinking. They're literally changing. They're creating a false perception of a team that isn't good to manipulate the fan base, which is just totally unacceptable.
I have a quick question and
Sure.
a comment.
Yep.
And the question is injuries are getting tougher and tougher to find out about. And I'd like to know where you guys go for your injuries. I go to Don Best, and that has gotten to be so poor in terms of reliable injury updates. 2 weeks ago, they had a game where the kid wasn't a starter, but he was coming off the bench at 16.9 points a game, which is one of the top subs in the nation. And Don Best didn't have him listed.
Right. JD, what do you say to that?
You know, I use Don Best myself, but I also, before every game, I Google both sides and see if there's any articles in the last 4 to 5 hours. I also look on Twitter as well.
Yeah,
because Twitter tends to release, like, for example, Mamadi Diakite. I wasn't sure if he was going to play against UNC.
Right.
I believe on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't announce anything. Don Best had it listed as questionable. But around 45 minutes before the game, someone posted on Twitter that he was warming up and playing the game.
Nelson, I know you got one more quick comment quickly because I got to get to some other callers, please.
Okay, very quick. About 13 to 14 years ago, the FBI came out with a report that 3 to 5% of college basketball games are fixed. Now, there are 3 or 4 teams every year after 3 or 4 games I don't bet for or against because I found something suspicious. So my question to you guys is it less than 3 to 5% now, more than 3 to 5%, or about that? And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Nelson. Great call. Go ahead, Jameson.
I think more because the betting there's so many different ways you can bet now, and most college kids don't have any money. So if you give a college kid a few grand, they're gonna do whatever you want to do. And again, there's certain games where, remember, back in the day, it used to just only be Vegas or for gambling. Now, offshore sites, bookie, like there's so many different ways to put a wager in. So if you do something offshore, no one's gonna count or care about it.
Right, and there's 7 more states in the last year that have legalized sports betting. I think that it happens much. It doesn't happen really in the primetime games, but I think in the smaller market games, like for example, a game Nevada loses to New Mexico by 25 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
The next game, UNLV plays New Mexico. The line's like 2, and Anthony Mathis has one of the worst games I've ever seen for a point guard.
That was a very bizarre game by Mathis. We watched that game, and we don't know for sure, but it looked like there were some shenanigans there. That's all I'm going to say.
It definitely looked like there were some shenanigans there, and that's the type of game that I think would be prime picking for something like that to take place.
I know a very prominent coach very well who accused one of his players, of point shaving on a Mountain West Conference team just last year. So, yes, it does happen. 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Fernando. Fernando, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Hey, Fernando.
Hey, guys. I was at the game last night, and
you were?
I left during halftime, and then I took a ride down Boulder Highway, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't. Please explain.
You picked up 2 hookers?
Yeah, 2 for 1.
There might have been more hookers on Boulder Highway yesterday than there were people in the Thomas and Mack Center. That's possible. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. There's children listening. Go ahead, Fernando.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Last night's win was not a big win, not whatsoever, not at all.
Right.
But I'll ask Jameson, in the Pac-12, an assistant coach, a top assistant coach in the Pac-12, who would fit good for the UNLV program?
Dave Grace at Cal. Great recruiter. He is close with the Compton Magic. But UCLA was getting all that talent because of Dave Grace, not because of Steve Alford. Steve Alford's not known as a recruiter. He's not the guy that was making things happen. Now, I'm not sure about Dave Grace's X's and O's. I'm not quite sure about that, but I do know he's the key guy that was getting a lot of that UCLA talent that was going in the first rounds. Also, Jason Hart, keep an eye on him. He's been up for a few jobs. He was up for the lead assistant job at Washington when Mike Hopkins got the job. His name came with Pepperdine, and there's also another job that was regional as well. His name keeps on coming up. Both those guys are going to get jobs sooner than later. Great recruiters, but also guys that people trust, parents and people trust around the city. So it would not be surprising to see any of those guys get jobs. And also, I think both would be really good for the UNLV job because they both have West Coast ties. And the people like them. They're likable guys. There's no BS with those guys.
Fernando, I know there's a guy on the UW bench. He's an assistant coach. His name is Dave Rice. I heard he might be interested in the job. What do you think about that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. We're in agreement there. Yeah.
Hey, you guys do me a favor tonight.
Yes.
Make sure Brian gets to his car, okay? Because that one guy's pretty intense.
Well, we got more than one guy, Fernando. There's a few. Yeah, I know.
You know, I'm kind of worried about Ron myself.
There's a few wacky callers we get from time to time, but that happens. It's going to happen. Guys are going to call up. They're going to say stupid things. What can I do about it? 257-5396. The number to call again, 702-257-5396. We're joined by Jamison Welsh, our hoops guru. John, thanks for calling in. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's on your mind?
Well, I was at the game Saturday and Tuesday, and last night's brutal. But Saturday was brutal to have a Saturday game at 2:00 and nobody there with a decent opponent.
Right.
It's just incredibly sad where we're at.
John, how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you pay for those tickets? I'm curious.
Well, I get them free. So
I bet you a lot of people do. I bet you a lot of people are. So I heard a story, John, yesterday. And by the way, before, I would imagine there were about 1,000 people there. It was pretty bad yesterday, right?
Terrible. Yeah.
I heard a story from a few people that on my Twitter page that told me personally that they had tickets in the upper section, and of course there's like 5 people in the upper section, so they walked downstairs and they tried to sit 3rd or 4th row, and a security guard told them to go back upstairs.
No.
Yes. They wouldn't make that up either. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then you wonder why people aren't coming back. Are you kidding me? They should have had every single ticket, every person fill up the first 3 or 4 rows at least, so on the CBS Sports Network it doesn't look like a JV high school game like a Jameson said in the auxiliary gym.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to do everything they can. I think I've been disappointed so much with the media, thinking that as fans, we have too high of expectations for this program. And I've been watching the team since 1983, and I'd like to see it at least get back in the top 50 and contend in the Mountain West.
I agree.
I was wondering, Jason. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
I was wondering Jameson's opinions, because on Menzies, besides who he seemed to recruit borderline players for what he could get at UNLV, and I'm also disappointed in his rotations and just kind of how his X's and O's are, and if Jameson feels kind of the same way.
Oh, I feel I feel we all feel the same way, but also the recruiting has been an issue because he's recruiting like he's recruiting at New Mexico State. UNLV is one of the rare mid-majors where you can get one-and-done guys at. You can't get one-and-done guys at every mid-major, but you can get one-and-done guys here or one-and-done talent here. And he has said on record that he wants 4-year guys. Now, if you have a chance to get a one-and-done guy, a guy that can get you 18 to 20 points a night and change your program for that year, you better try to go get that guy. And he has, he's shied away from that, and it showed because there's certain nights they just don't have enough talent. And it's not even an X and O game. They just have enough talent some nights.
And, John, let me add to that if I can. I think the way Marvin Menzies' recruiting can work in the WAC, it's not going to work where he is at now. And I'm not saying that he's a horrible – I've never said on record that he is a atrocious basketball coach. I've never said that he can't win anywhere. I've never said that. I think if he went back to a conference like the WAC, he probably could win and be successful. I've said for 2 years now, he is the wrong guy for this job for a lot of different reasons. He just is the wrong guy for the job. And I would be shocked, John, beyond belief. In a month from now, we're talking and you call in and he is still the UNLV head basketball coach. I would be shocked.
I kind of hope you're right, because as much as I like him as a person and everything, and that he's trying, but he's just not getting it done at all.
Yeah.
And I can't understand anything that he's doing or the approach he's taken, and it's a shame.
I agree. John, good call. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Good to hear from you. Look, we heard the same thing about Dave Rice. Good guy, not getting it done. Good guy, not getting it done here. It's just, I will say this about Dave Rice. I'll give him credit. I gave him credit for a couple things. He had a pretty good out-of-conference strength of schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Gave him credit for that.
It's not even that he's not getting things done. It's that he's making excuses for why he's not getting things done.
Right.
Exactly.
That's my biggest issue. I understand, down years, injuries to Houston, injuries to Dembele. Say what you have to say, but you can't make excuses about why you're not winning and transfer that losing culture and mentality onto your players, which he has clearly done.
And good point. That was going to be the second thing I was going to say about Dave Rice. I don't recall him, Jameson, ever making these excuses, and I'll just name a few of them. Okay, the Air Force game where they lost last month and they gave up over 100 points to an Air Force team. He blamed a partial reason why they lost on the crowd noise. Earlier in the season, when they lost to Valpo, a really bad basketball team, they lost at home, and he looked at us in the media, and JD, I think you were there, weren't you, when he looked at us and he said, guys, what did we lose by? 6-7? It could have been worse. He refers to his players as his babies. Okay, these are still men. They're young men, but they're men. And when you look at the loss to Nevada, in the second half, he bragged about outscoring them by 5 points. You can't say things like that and expect people to take you seriously. I think he knows he's on the hot seat. I think he knows that he could be on the way out.
In one interview, he actually broke down a drill that his team does in practice to prove to us that he actually has his team do drills.
I think, and Jameson, you correct me, it is ridiculous. Jameson, correct me if I'm wrong. I get the sense from Marv that, he tells people, look, I've been doing this for a long time, guys. I'm really good at what I do. And he doesn't like to be criticized. He doesn't like to be critiqued.
Well, most coaches don't. Most coaches don't. However, here's the thing. He's a guy that's starting to feel the pressure because we all know how this works. We all have people who are connected in various ways. Whenever there's someone on the hot seat, we all know there's people basically jockeying for jobs that aren't even open yet. That's just how it goes. And in the college circle, the agent circle, there's not a whole lot of agents out there. So when people are putting out feelers, it comes back to them. People know what's going on. So if your job is being jockeyed for behind your back and it's the middle of the season, that could be a little tough, especially if your team isn't playing great.
So UNLV is going to be going on a little bit of a road trip. I would not even – Wyoming is horrible, but I'm not going to say that that's a gimme. They did beat Colorado State. Colorado State's not very good, but where do you guys see the I'm not talking about the Mountain West Conference tournament. Where do you see these last several games before they get into the tournament?
Well, they should beat Wyoming. That should not be an issue. Colorado State is not – they're bad, but they're not like – it's not an automatic win.
Nico Carvacho, baby. He's, first rounder, for sure.
No, Carvacho is – I think he actually leads the country in rebounds.
Yeah, he does.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to give UNLV some problems.
In fact, I was talking to Larry Eustace, his former coach, the other day, who helped develop him into being that kind of player. And he told me he was such a soft guy when he came to the university, but he's really improved dramatically.
He's got a nice little baby hook.
I think
he doesn't finish a lot under the hoop, but he's going to get his opportunities.
He's earned his way into making money somewhere. I think he'll probably be a European. There's no way he's an NBA player, but I think he will play in Europe and he will play somewhere. But I had somebody tell me, or I shouldn't say told me, but somebody in the media saying that Niko Medved deserves the Coach of the Year. I'm like, are you on crack?
No.
Are you kidding me?
Again, you have a top 10 team in the conference. No.
Forget about Nevada. I would give
it's not Muss,
Chris Smith or
it's Hudson
or Craig Smith. I'm sorry, Smith or Hudson.
When you have a top 10 team in the country in a conference like this, he is the Coach of the Year.
Absolutely,
especially with how big they're winning these games. I mean, these teams they're not even competitive anymore.
It's not that. It's just very rarely do you have a team out the Mountain West that's a top 10 team in the country. That doesn't happen every year. That's something after this run for Nevada's over, we may not see this again. That's crazy. We may not see a top 10 team out of this conference for a very long time.
Even when it was San Diego State and BYU, were they even top 10?
Yes.
Were they?
San Diego State definitely was.
BYU was like top 15, weren't they? They were like lingering, but
because if I'm not mistaken, San Diego State went to Kansas and won a game at Kansas. So yeah, they were in the mix there.
And they lost only by a couple points to the eventual national championship team, UConn, that year. That was a fun year for the Mountain West Conference. Man, I wish we had one other top 25 team in the Mountain West that'd make the conference so much better.
So here's the thing: if you replace San Jose State with BYU or someone else, it'd be a lot better.
Yeah, I think when BYU left the conference, that really seriously hurt the conference. No question about it. All right, if you want to be a part of the program, you give us a buzz, 257-5396. Joining us in studio, Jameson Welsh from Drive Time Sports. When we come back, are some of these Lakers players literally tanking? And what is going on with Walton and his status? Will he be the head coach for the remainder of the year? And LeBron, a lot of issues with L.A. We're going to talk about that when we come back with Jameson Welsh. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.